Unlimited talk $75. Talk unlimited to over 50 destinations. Unlimited talk to all local landlines. Landline to mobile 45 cents. Sign up now.
Watch, talk, click.
This is CC6 Newsnight Weekend Review for November 5th to 8th, 2012. It was a week in which nurses protested against low wages, but the Minister of Health says they were not properly employed. A man wanted by the police in Grenada was caught in St. Vincent, and a resident voices concern about beach erosion that is changing the landscape in a St. Andrew community. In sports, Spice Boys gearing up for a good showing in the CFU Caribbean Cup. Stay with us, we'll bring you details when we return.
Unlimited talk $75. Talk unlimited to over 50 destinations. Unlimited talk to all local landlines. Landline to mobile 45 cents. Sign up now.
Watch, talk, click. Superior one-on-one customer service. Phenomenal products customized to your individual style and need. Fast and efficient service are all attributes that have made St. Lou the leading manufacturers of windows and doors for over 30 years in St. Lucia. And we are now pleased to extend our services to you. Try our new single-hung windows, which can be tilted for easy cleaning. Our famous casement windows, which locks with keys for added security. Our gliders, projected aluminum and heavy sliding windows, sliding and commercial doors, commercial shop fronts, and more. Visit us today, building number 19 Frequente Industrial Park, St. George's, or call us at 439-6538.
At Scotiabank, we offer a number of borrowing solutions to make home ownership work for you. It all starts with a conversation. For the right mortgage advice, come in and talk to us. Scotiabank. Discover what's possible.
Thanks for joining us. I am Samantha Williams. Businessman Alistair Stanislaus, who was wanted by police in connection with stealing and bank fraud, was caught in neighboring St. Vincent on Friday after 1 week on the run. The 34-year-old was last year charged with the C-Tech gas station, Bananas nightclub, and Wayne Wagiti redhead robberies, but had been out on bail since June. He escaped police custody in Grenada just about a week ago after he was charged for the new offenses. The Criminal Investigation Department last week issued a wanted notice for Stanislaus, who is of Montparnasse, St. George, in connection with stealing and fraud at a local bank. It is alleged that the former proprietor of ALS Hatchery used some high-tech equipment such as surveillance cameras and card scanners to capture ATM pins and images of customers' tellers' card, resulting in the loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars at 3 of the bank's teller machines. CC6 Newsnight has been reliably informed that Stanislaus was picked up by the St. Vincent police on suspicion of committing similar offenses. The RGPF told CC6 Newsnight that Stanislaus was captured at a guest house near the E.T. Joshua Airport in St. Vincent on Friday, and up to news time was in police custody in that country. The state-owned Gravel and Concrete Corporation is in dire financial straits as the cost of one of its key products, sand, has increased significantly as it now has to be imported. But the union, which represents the corporation's workers, says there can be a temporary reprieve if the government would grant a request made some months ago.
President General of Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, Senator Chester Humphrey, is accusing the government of not taking certain actions that could help the failing Gravel and Concrete Emulsion Production Corporation. In an interview at GTAU's conference room in St. George's recently, Senator Humphrey says the state-owned corporation is on the verge of collapsing, and one reason is the high costs associated with the importation of sand. Since the ban on sand mining around 3 years ago, Gravel and Concrete has been importing sand, and Humphrey says the corporation has not been able to compete with other suppliers of the product.
The reserve of sand, the corporation has no sand to sell. Sand has been depleted. It keeps a reserve for purposes of its pouring of its concrete. That reserve is about a week supply and due to run out. The corporation has just contracted a contract to do some work in the south. Sand is due to arrive somewhere around the 16th, which means that it would not be able to fulfill that contract.
There is, however, a temporary solution, he says, which is being ignored by the authorities.
Months ago, the corporation wrote to the Ministry of Works, that's the line ministry that it reports to, indicating to it that the airport had contacted the corporation to point out that there was a buildup of sand on the shoreline. The sea brings in the sand with the rough sea and piles it up. The sand is 4 to 5 feet, as I have been told. That sand then, because of its height and because there's no vegetation and the sea moves that sand back and forth, the sand is blowing onto the runway. So the airport from time to time moves the sand.
Officials at the airport have confirmed to CC6 Newsnight that the sand is a nuisance to them. GTAO, which represents workers at Gravel and Concrete who were facing layoffs due to the poor financial state of the company, last week delivered a petition to Prime Minister Honorable Tillman Thomas, which among other things demanded a temporary lift on sand mining at Telescope.
Gravel and Concrete has been waiting weeks now to get approval to take that sand. No approval has come. This morning, on my BlackBerry, I had to call Senator Noel and say, Senator, what's happening with you all? There is sand available.
Gravel and concrete workers who spoke with CC6 Newsnight last week also cited the high cost of imported sand as a major reason for the company's dire financial straits. The workers say since Gravel and Concrete has not been able to source sand locally, the company's income had been almost cut in half. Janelle Andrews, CC6 Newsnight.
There is some worry about beach erosion in a St. Andrew community, and a call is being made for immediate attention as already motorists have had to seek alternate routes to get from one point to the other in that area.
What was once land with a proper access road along a section of the beach in Telescope St. Andrew is now unrecognizable as a result of significant erosion from the constant pounding of the waves. Innocent Belfort, who is an employee of the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority, working in the area for the past 23 years, says the way the area looks now could never be compared to how it was over 10 years ago.
From the past times, in the earlier days when you look at it, what we're looking at here now, the sea and the roads used to be all outside there. The roads used to be outside, maybe about 75 to 100 feet or more outside in the sea water. You come down the hill on top of there, we see the houses up there now, and when you come down, you just ride behind a road behind the houses and you come straight down and drive along the beaches. There was people who used to pick up seaweed here. There was the estate, which was concerned Paradise Estate, you know, and this kind of a stuff and all this thing was happening here. But to the years and years go by, and I don't know if to say the lower areas where they are doing housing or whatsoever had been done down there.
He says in the past he would have been able to walk some distance into the ocean as there was land underneath coconut trees.
This place you're looking at behind my back here, right? This is the place I used to walk in outside there. You understand? But now I got to get myself inside of the bushes to walk to get up on the beach side, which I used to walk on the outside.
Belfort says the erosion is as a result of lack of maintenance of the area, which was compounded by the rough seas during the passage of Hurricane Ivan on September 7, 2004.
The deterioration started before Ivan a little bit, but after Ivan, it become, you know, what I would say, something that, you know, somebody should have been looking at. To either stop, you dump and stop the beach from coming to the shore and take over the roads, or something else. But, you know, it was before Ivan it started deteriorating a little. But after Ivan, there was the big deterioration, which brought us to where we are today.
Belfort says despite the severe erosion in the area, he still believes that something can be done to save what's left of the land mass.
Because there's a lot of places that erosion are taking place, and there are things that in place that could stop it. Because now, if we find the erosion is coming into this land here, on that grounds here, all we got to do is to do the proper refoundation of foundation, or how they might look at it, to prevent the sea, when it's high, and the high tides, from coming and wash away the shore. So maybe we need some stones or something or some bags or something like we watch in America. We got to watch the stampers there. And only before the stamp came in, they was putting up bags and things to protect the lands.
Motorists are now using an area that also needs attention, and if some work is not done very soon, it too will become impassable. Sherry-Ann Noel, CC6 News Night.
When we return, nurses protest against low wages, but the minister says they were not properly employed.
Only one dishwashing liquid can do the job. Quicks is the expert in taking out the toughest grease easily. You know you can trust it. Quicks cuts grease better, full stop.
GTM wishes to advise its customers of its new toll-free office and fax numbers for our local offices. You can contact us at 800-4GTM. That is 800-4486. Alternatively, we can be contacted on telephone numbers 232-2351, 232-6456, or 232-0920.
GTM, song solid, reliable.
Digicel makes you smile. Free SMS, free international and local. Free magic number calls, extra credit when you top up 10 or more, and get rewarded for your top up. Digicel gives you more to keep you smiling. Get free SMS when you top up with $10. Magic number calls when you top up with $15. Free international once you top up with $20. Free local calls to all Digicel numbers. Extra credit for $30 or more. You get more. 10% bonus credit to do anything you want. Digicel makes you smile. Digicel, the bigger, better network.
Welcome back. It is a historic moment for the United States in several ways as President Barack Obama secured a second consecutive term to serve his country, and the opposition leader has offered his congratulations on the election victory.
Leader of the opposition, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, has extended congratulations to Barack Obama on his re-election as President of the United States.
And whether I earned your vote or not, I have listened to you. I have learned from you. And you've made me a better president. And with your stories and your struggles, I return to the White House more determined and more inspired than ever about the work there is to do and the future that lies ahead.
In a statement issued on Wednesday, Dr. Mitchell says while many Grenadians living in the U.S. share President Obama's dream of a better and stronger America, his victory has a strong lesson for Grenada about inspired leadership in a time of crisis.
President Obama has been able to build on his broad and exciting coalition of voters and has brought renewed hope to America and to the world with both his vision and leadership. His victory also speaks to the power of democracy and the determination shared by people everywhere to be able to take part in shaping their own destiny. We in Grenada share those same values, and in spite of the uncertainty in recent months and the hiccups in our democracy and the economic problems that we're facing, we look forward with eagerness to exercising our own right to fashioning a better future for our country.
Another important lesson in the president's victory, the statement says, is that the president is ready to embrace all Americans regardless of their political affiliation.
It is also significant that in his victory speech last night, President Obama emphasized the need to work across party lines to help solve the problems of his nation, and about the need to set the right political tones in terms of bringing people together and not dividing people. Certainly, we have listened and learned and sincerely hope that our government must come to understand, too, that petty and small politics will never solve our big problems.
At newstime, President Obama had sealed his victory with 303 Electoral College votes to his opponent Mitt Romney's 206. The state of Florida, which has 29 electoral college votes, had still not yet been declared. Beverly Sinclair, CC6 News 9.
Led by the Public Workers Union, almost 40 young registered nurses staged a march through the city and onto the ministerial complex, demanding that the long outstanding issue of the $700 they are being paid as a full-time worker on completion of their certification program be addressed.
A group of young people which has completed the registered nursing program at the T.A. Marichaud Community College, led by the Public Workers Union, held a mild protest on the grounds of the General Hospital on Wednesday morning in an effort to bring public awareness to their plight. The RNs are calling for an increase in their monthly wages of $700, which is a stipend they received while attending school, although some of the nurses graduated as far back as 2010. Second Vice President of the PWU, Dr. Winston Thomas, says it is time the nurses got their statuses updated and the corresponding salaries.
$700 to me is akin to the minimum wage of Grenada. Nursing, the skill, the dedication, the commitment, the care of a nurse is in no way comparable or should be compensated with a minimum wage. So that anomaly is crying out for justice, for correction, and I think the nurses here, they have undergone the torture over the past 2 years or so, and they are asking the authorities to do the necessary and have their situation rectified.
The nurses say they have been providing their services to the General Hospital on a daily basis by working on public holidays, night shifts, and 14-hour days, and deserve to be compensated for what they do. They carried placards with messages like bus, bills, and food need to be taken care of, $700 is a shame, and enough is enough. We can't take $700 a month, no more. President of the Grenada Nurses Association, Patricia Strawn, says the nurses' request for a pay increase is reasonable.
They are registered nurses, and registered nurses don't give service for $700. Okay? They work the same shifts, they do night duty, just as other nurses. So their request for decent pay is justified. We have nurses in the system, meaning registered nurses, who receive an allowance for $1,007, $1,006. Okay? They don't work for $700. $700 is what is payable to students as a stipend. It's not the monetary allowance for registered nurses.
PWU President Madonna Harford says they have written to all bodies concerned but have not had any response so far, and the protest is a message to government that they need to address the issue soon.
I think within a matter of 2 weeks the government should respond and upgrade the $700, and that is what we're asking for. Yes, the nurses would want appointments, etc. The Minister for Health would have indicated to us earlier on that she was getting about 153 posts of registered nurses in the system. That has not happened. The budget gave her 26, and up to now, the 26 posts of registered nurses, they have not been filled. And we want them to be filled, and we want them, whatever the others, we want them to get a decent, at least a decent pay.
PWU and the registered nurses were joined in their protest by members of the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union as they marched through the streets of St. George's. Mrs. Harford says they are prepared to take further action if the issue is not addressed in a timely fashion.
The Minister of Health is being asked to address the issue of underpayment of some 40 young people in the health sector, but she says that issue does not lie with government, but instead with the people who appointed the young nurses to serve at the General Hospital.
Minister of Health Senator Ann Peters says the call being made by registered nurses for an increase in wages is not unreasonable. However, the young people are being misguided. More than 30 RNs staged a mild protest at the General Hospital on Wednesday to press demands for increase in wages from the $700 stipend they have been receiving for the past 6 years in some instances. In an interview with Senator Peters on Wednesday, she says the matter cannot be dealt with by the ministry because the recently graduated RNs are not employed by the government.
When the nursing program moved into the T.A. Marichaud Community College, the concept was that you were going to train nurses both for local consumption as well as for export, which I supported at the time. We are at a stage where the students going into the T.A. Marichaud Community College needs to understand that on completion of your training, you then apply to be appointed under the Ministry of Health. There are 2 ways you can be appointed in the Ministry of Health, either via a contract under 340 or through the Public Service Commission. The positions that I lobbied for in 2012, which is in the budget, has to go through a process of application, screening, vetting by the Department of Public Administration, and appointment by the Public Service Commission.
She says the protesting registered nurses should take the matter up with the people who appointed them to serve at the General Hospital.
What we have happening now are a group of young people, unfortunately, who are being utilized in the clinical area with no authorization by either the Public Service Commission or the Ministry of Health directly via contracts or via appointments. The question begs, legally, if a question is asked, who gave the authority or who authorized their continuing placement in the clinical area, it has to be answered by the public officers.
There is a process for adding people to the government's payroll, Senator Peters says, and it is not in her jurisdiction.
It is unfortunate, but there has been a breach of procedure and protocol. And as usual, the politician will take the blame. But as a political figurehead, my responsibility, and note what I say carefully, is to ensure that I fight for the allocation of the human resources in terms of the estimates in this document, which I have done with a lot of headaches, because it's not only nurses I have to look after. I have other allied healthcare professionals that you also have to make allocations for. We're dealing with tight budgetary allocations. You have to rationalize every single staff member that you make recommendations for appointment. So I would have done so. So the other agencies now need to interview, make the recommendations, and appoint.
The health minister advises the over 30 young people to go through the proper channels and apply for a job within the ministry.
That was Blossom Alexis Welsh reporting. Coming up in Sports on 6, female volleyballers looking for a spot in the World Championship.
Breeze removes stains in the first wash. The other detergents, not always. You have to wash it all again and use twice the amount. So, which one costs more? Do the math. Choose Breeze. Unbeatable stain removal.
Cool me down. Nothing can hard in my country. So I open up a bakery. Yes.
Hey, in order that I should marry.
When did you jump, soca?
Friendliest people you'll ever meet. Wise man with black stone beside him.
Live on Community Channel 6 every Saturday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's Sound System Saturday.
Hello, I'm Chef Didier and welcome to Meals in a Minute, brought to you by the Baron Gourmet Collection.
Today, we join Chef Didier on a culinary trip to China for a delicious sweet and sour chicken stir-fry.
We start by simply branding a chicken breast in a hot pan with a little bit of oil. Add a little more oil to the pan and stir-fry your fresh vegetables until barely tender. Then add a jar of sweet and sour sauce from the Baron Gourmet Collection with some fresh noodles and toss it until nice and hot. and now you are ready to enjoy your sweet and sour stir fry.
We hope we can inspire your next meal in minutes with the Baron Gourmet Collection. Baron, we make food tasty.
Welcome back. Kicking off with football. Grenada's Spice Boys are now most certain who their opponents will be in the semi-final leg of the CFU Caribbean Cup from November 14th to 18th at the Grenada National Stadium.
Technical Director of the GFA, Lester Smith, gave some details about the Spice team's upcoming Group 6 challenge.
The teams involved here are Haiti, Guyana and French Guyana, together with host country Grenada. Teams will be coming in from as early as Monday next week, God's willing. Our overseas-based players should be in by this weekend. We have requested 6 overseas-based players. David Cyrus, who is playing in Australia, Clive Murray, who is in Thailand, and in England we have Anthony Straker and Bradley Bubb. And then we have Kitson Bain, who is in Antigua at the moment, and Craig Rocastle, who is at Kansas City. So these are the 6 foreign-based players that are likely to join the squad.
Grenada will be playing 3 matches in that leg of the tournament, which will be the last game on each match day.
I think they've played with the team before. They were at the last Gold Cup, the overseas players. I think it's a matter of now them coming in and gelling once more with the local team. You know, it's 18 players that is going to represent Grenada, so we have 6 overseas-based players, 2 goalkeepers, which makes it 8, and then we only have to choose 10 local-based players here to join with the overseas-based players. So I think they're going to gel well. Straker is a very great and talented player, likewise Cyrus. So you don't want to talk about Kitson Bain and his prowess up front, scoring goals. You know, he's one of the trump cards for the team, really. You know, what he did in the last championship. So I think, you know, the overseas-based players will come in and gel nicely, and hopefully we can succeed in this tournament.
The Spice Boys are hoping to qualify once again for the final of the Caribbean Cup, scheduled for Antigua in December.
The Grenada National Women's Volleyball team is making its last preparation for the second round of competition in the World Volleyball Governing Body Nausica's 2014 World Qualification Championship in Antigua. The first qualification round of the tournament was held in Grenada last June, with Team Grenada advancing to the next stage of the competition. Assistant Public Relations Officer of the Grenada Volleyball Association is Jensen Phillip.
The female team is training 3 days a week. The coach is Coach Adam Lafayette, and he has a total of 15 young ladies training currently. The team is going to be broken down to 12 persons who will be traveling to Antigua to take part in that round of the competition. We're also appealing to everyone out there to give your support to us. It's a really, really good thing that's happening here. There's a lot more in store for the young ladies.
Grenada has a well-rounded team, he says, and the association is doing all it can to ensure the ladies make it to the competition.
Coach Lafayette and so forth are currently, they're going to be having an island tour with the girls. They'll be going around trying to solicit a little bit of funds, so we're asking our corporate personnel out there to lend your support. We have to come up with $14,000 for the guys to travel. They're partly sponsored by Nausicaa and the World Competition, but we have to come up with a further $14,000 to travel.
The team, which is guided by coach and national male player Adam Lafayette, will leave the island on November 24th for Antigua. And finally, in bodybuilding, it was a show with a difference, with experiences that many will be remembering for quite a long time, when local bodybuilders and fitness athletes and models came together to show off themselves to the public in the inaugural Grenada Mr. Olympia competition.
The competition was held at the Grenada Trade Center on Saturday in front of a packed crowd of fitness enthusiasts. At the end of all the excitement, Rydon Gill of Geomax Fitness Center took first position in the powerlifting category, while Elva Ross, Gario Walker and Damian Daniel, all from the Fit for Life Sports Club, walked away with the 2012 Fitness and Figure, Miss Bikini and Mr. Olympia titles. Prizes were also won in 7 categories: short and tall class, bikini short class, bikini tall class, lightweight, middleweight and heavyweight categories. Professional bodybuilder Vaughn Francis, as part of the demonstration showcase, gave the crowd a small taste of what he offers on the international stage. There were also 2 exhibition displays by long-standing mature bodybuilders, 60-year-old Merlin Sharp and 66-year-old Rex. Proceeds from the Mr. Olympia initiative will go towards charity.
That's all we have for you in Sports on 6. A recap of the headlines is next.
Still struggling to stream content? Get Flow Broadband. With the most affordable rates on the fastest speeds around, you click and stream all the content you want smoother than ever.
Flow, watch, talk, click.
Recapping the headlines, it was the week in which nurses protested against low wages, but the Minister of Health says they were not properly employed. A man wanted by the police in Grenada was caught in St. Vincent, and a resident voices concern about beach erosion that is changing the landscape in a St. Andrew community. In sports, Spice Boys gearing up for a good show in the CFU Caribbean Cup. That brings us to the end of CC6 News Night, week in review for November 5th to 8th, 2012. Top stories from CC6 News Night can also be seen on our Facebook